Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money and the Law on MyFM 101.3, your favorite radio station, and also delivered to you exclusively on TV on Holliston Cable Access Television. I'm John Drohan from Main Effort Financial, and I'm joined by my co-host and dear friend Jay Marston from the Marston Law Group. We are Money and the Law.
Oh, and we are ready and rolling.
But we probably need like some sort of like some music to like some playover music.
We talked about the live band. We talked about that. You know, kind of like like Letterman used to have.
Yeah, like Letterman used, like they all have, like everybody had. Yeah. He had the great Paul Schaefer.
The spiffy dresser Paul Schaefer too. By the way, that guy knew how to wear an outfit.
That's right. I love the whole. I love the live band. Of course, from a COVID perspective, in this room, they're probably live.
I don't think it's a state thing, but I think Tom's probably thinking from a liability perspective.
We could probably get one guy. I mean, we could get one guy with a guitar in here, or an accordion.
Yeah.
There's actually three guys in here because not only is there Jay and John, there's also Christian Bidet, who's the senior director and co-owner. Or you might be
founding member.
You're the exclusive owner of Holliston Cable Access Television, and he's the one who also is the main producer of Money in the Law.
Socially distanced. Christian thought to himself, if I have to work with these guys, nothing says willing to work with these guys, but as long as I get forced to stay away, you would have win for him. Like, well, I'll keep working with them.
Christian, well, he trusts us. He's got two masks on, a face shield, and a football helmet. So he's protected. He's good. All right. So how are you doing?
Doing fine, doing good, doing okay. Holidays kind of came and went. How was your Thanksgiving?
Well, it was what it was, right? We did make an effort to go see Mom. We went. Haley had to work, so the girls, my three daughters, decided that they were going to power up and drive 2 hours to see my mother, stay for an hour in the rain, and then 2 hours drive back, and they did it. And so it was a good effort. I think it meant a lot to my mother. You know, it was good to see everybody, and because normally Thanksgiving's a big deal for us. That's a big. You know, we have two big link-up times. One is Thanksgiving, and the other is 4th of July. So Thanksgiving got canceled. My sister, who wisely she sent this text to me and said, the little voice inside my head said, don't drive across 6 states to visit my 76-year-old mother. Something, I don't know, maybe.
Stopping in 26 gas stations along the way. That's right. What could go wrong is right. Yep. What could go wrong is right.
So we postponed it. We're going to have, we talked about having some sort of an Australian Christmas party in the summer because, as you know, in Australia, Christmas is its summertime.
Oh, yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Well, that's true. That's fact. That's not that I've ever been there.
No, well,
not that I have any desire to go there.
Facts don't seem to matter much these days, so you make it up. Everybody else seems to be doing that. What's the big deal?
That's right. So how about you?
It was good. It was low key. We didn't go anywhere. My wife also worked, but we, in the interest of keeping COVID at bay, we stayed pretty local. My mom was hanging out with my sisters, or my sister, I think, down in Bridgewater. They were getting together down there, and I think everybody kind of kept to their home court and just kind of did their own thing. And I pointed out for my daughters that I'm 52 years old, and so this is the first time in 52 Thanksgivings that I actually had to turn on the stove and make dinner. We've never had to make dinner.
So you've always been
America's guest. We've always been America's guest. Yeah. So as a result, it was a different experience.
Which is okay.
I have no problem with it. I know my way around a stove. I know which end of a pot to grab.
And so here's the thing, because I remember you had telling me that your wife was going to work. So I'm thinking, in the back of my mind, I had this plan. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get home. I'm going to have nothing to do. I'm going to call Jay, right? I'm going to call Jay. So, and this was in the assumption that I was going to be home by 11 a.m. So as we are driving out of the driveway at 11:30 a.m., so granted, 2 hours, you know.
Yeah.
So we get home probably about 5 p.m., and guess what? My kids are like, so when's our Thanksgiving dinner? And I'm like, oh, you mean you want just like, you know, whatever, like just something to eat on Thanksgiving? They're like, no,
where's the turkey?
We're having Thanksgiving dinner. So that threw a monkey wrench in my, hey, let's talk about Money in the Law, you know, and, you know, maybe drink some pumpkin beer or something. But
that's so funny.
it didn't happen. Unfortunately. So I didn't even want to. I didn't want to tease it because then you would have been disappointed.
Well, we actually had a little bit of a brush with COVID-19 last week.
That's always a fun.
And yeah, that was awesome. And so we didn't know what was going to happen, to be honest. So my wife had a little run-in at the hospital. One of those. This guy's all set, and then at the end of the day, hey, wait a minute, nobody flipped that card over. No, the card's supposed to say, wear all your gear, not don't wear any gear. Yeah. And so there was a lot of that going on. So we were in a little bit of a lockdown at the beginning of the week. And then once she got her test results and everything was fine and there was nothing to worry about, then we were kind of released back into the wild. But, I got to tell you, it's, we've joked about this on this show a bunch of times. And when you see it and you talk about it, but you see it from a little bit of an arm's length perspective, okay, that's fine. You think what your mindset is going to be like around this, but when you're actually sitting around waiting for the results, okay, it's a little bit different. It feels a little bit different. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to. And we've been, knock on wood, everything. We've had no real issues. Everybody's so far so good. We've had a couple of hiccups here and there. We've had some family members that have been unfortunately affected by it. But when you think, okay, great, when somebody all of a sudden says to you, like, oh, hold on, we got to get a swab here, and you got to basically lock it down.
Yeah,
it's a little different. It's a little different. Again, not that no one's contemplating anything to the extreme. It's just weird. It's just weird.
I mean, so everybody, we all watch the news, we all see read about what's going on, and so. When you're waiting and you're just peppered with all of these stories of, oh, this is how many people get hospitalized, and then you think, wait a minute, that's a lot of people that actually have to go to the hospital. And how many people have you known? I mean, I'm sure you've known dozens of people that have had coronavirus over the past year, and I mean, not many people go to the hospital. So when you think, well, if that person has to go to the hospital, they must be really sick, and then you hear all the stories about. Not the people that, not the people who actually die, the super sad stories, but the people who are in the hospital for, weeks at a time.
Oh, yeah.
And they come out and it's, they're not the same. They're not feeling the same that the way they did. And their recovery isn't, so and
it runs the gamut. Age-wise, it runs the gamut. I mean, you read these articles, you see these stories, you're like, oh, Joe Blow was a 51-year-old triathlete, and then he gets sick, and now all of a sudden, he can barely get out of bed and walk to the bathroom. So yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to it. So here's
the thing, and I am no scientist, and I am no doctor, and I am no expert on anything. However, what I have kind of gathered from all this, what I've kind of put together, I've compilated myself, is that the people who consistently wear masks and are around people that wear masks tend to not get it as much as everybody else. Call me crazy.
I've heard that.
Call me crazy. So
it's a seatbelt for your face.
Right, and the seatbelt analogy is great, right?
Yes.
It's like why? Remember. I mean, you and I remember when no one wore seatbelts. I can remember my old man. The only reason that he had a seatbelt in the front seat of his Mustang was so he could buckle in the baby seat that I sat in the front seat.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody wore seatbelts. They were a hassle. Yeah. I remember
buckle in that case of beer. I don't want it to spill all over the floor in case I jam my brakes on.
We had a Volkswagen Bug, right? The old Volkswagen Bugs, and that was the Volkswagen. In their infinite pioneering wisdom, they were the first ones that actually had a buzzer that if you didn't buckle your seatbelt, but it wasn't like the cool one now where it's you're driving for a little while and then bing bing it starts to bing a little bit. Volkswagen, it was like.
It was like you knew people with. I mean, I'm not even. You knew people who said, "Oh, I just cut those things out."
Yeah, my old man buckled them. He just had them buckled all the time.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep, that's right. So other than that, looking forward to the next couple of weeks. I do enjoy the season. Enjoying a little bit more this year because you don't really have much of a choice to enjoy anything else.
Oh, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it. I like that attitude. You're a little bit more glasses half full. Your Christmas cup is more half full.
That's right. Well, that's because there's a hell of a lot more eggnog in it than there usually would be. So that's part of the problem right there. But
So what's on your Christmas list? So since you probably got to go shopping early because I got something. I know I'm not going to get it, but I know what I want.
Me personally?
Yeah. What do you want?
Oh, I don't want anything.
No, I mean, what do you? But there's something you.
No.
You don't want anything. There's peace and goodwill.
Peace, I mean, I want my family. I want my family to be happy and healthy. That's what I want. I want everybody, my mother, my sisters, my nieces, my nephews. I want everybody to stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. That's the gift this year.
That's your nobility gift.
That's not even nobility. I just, given everything that's going on, and there are some people that are really dealing with some serious challenges this year. And I think if you can tread water this year, you're ahead of the curve.
It's true. It's true.
I'm not trying to sound
good. It does
I'm not trying to sound like a martyr. I just think, given everything that's going on, I just think there's just so much happening. If you can just kind of come out of this as close to something that looks like normal as you possibly can, you're ahead of it. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day. So my daughter comes home from school. She's happy. She had a good semester. She made some friends as a freshman. I mean, she really had a good run of it. I said, look, there's a lot of kids that are just having a really, really, really tough semester. Right. If you could just come home and say, look, we get it, but that's the win. I think that's the win.
And it's funny because you hear a lot of people. There's a lot of that conversation, with Thanksgiving. What are you thankful for? Everybody talks about what are you thankful? And people are like, I'm thankful for what I got.
Yeah.
It's not like, I really, really am happy.
It's a legit come to Jesus moment this year where you're like, what? Yeah.
I'm happy with the fact that I still have a job. Many people don't have jobs, right? Yeah. I'm happy with the fact that none of my family has been really affected by COVID-19, where a lot of people can't say that.
Yeah.
And like you said, the college thing, that's. Or even the high school thing. I mean, like school. You and I, we talk about high school. High school was such a big part of our lives, and people joke around and like, they're kind of flippant about it, but in reality, it is. I mean, we've said this before on the show. I can remember specific days and times in high school, like vividly, like it was yesterday, where I can't remember what I did, 10 days ago, right?
Well, it's that window where you have X number, I don't know what the number is, but you have X numbers of rites of passages jammed into like a 6-week window, right? I mean, every time you wake up, there's something that you have to do, right?
Right.
So all of that out the window. I mean, not even like, you didn't even miss 1 or 2 of it. You missed all of it, right? And it was just a tremendous, tremendous challenge. So that, combined with all the other stuff that could be going on, I'm not even... I'm just happy to be walking around on 2 feet. That's
I want all those things that you want, but I also want something else.
What do you want?
You know what I want?
21-year-old bottle of scotch.
I was going to say no, like a 20,000 K generator, because.
There we go.
So yeah, so I'm just not for nothing. Again,
I
really have
worried?
That's my biggest problem. No, I'm not worried. It's just that for some reason, like where we live, there's a bazillion dead trees. And I mean, if the wind blows a little bit, bam, tree comes down, and it's taken down some kind of power line. We have everybody else I know, so their power lines are buried underground.
We spent 2 weeks without power over 2 separate weeks.
Yeah,
we had one in the fall and one in like the early winter a couple of years ago, and we couldn't get out. Remember that? We couldn't get out of our road because a tree had fallen across the road. It was tied up in electrical wires and all that stuff.
You guys were dug in.
We were. It was old school, and. We'd come back from the store, probably the liquor store, maybe the food store, maybe both, right? We'd come back from the store and we'd have to stop the car and kind of but go around all the debris, And
hoist it over like Swiss Family Robinson.
I was kind of like that. And you're walking up the street and you look around and you see people in their houses who did have, had some foresight. And you say to yourself, if it all starts falling apart, right? If it all gets all kind of Lord of the Flies, this is what is going to happen. Someone's going to lose their mind because they can't watch Dancing with the Stars. And that's how they start storming the castle, right? So they're going to see what's going on with DWTS. It's not going to be food, right? It's not going to be anything like that. Someone's going to be losing their mind.
I love your.
That's what's going to happen.
I love your apocalypse reference of all the apocalypse. You go to Lord of the Flies.
It's crazy, right? That's what's going to happen. That's just going to happen right there.
I'm telling you, that's right.
Zombie Armageddon.
I mean, if I get a 20K generator, I'm digging a moat around my house. There's no way.
Right.
People
digging a moat around. Raise the bridge. Raise the bridge.
I'm going to have like the big vats of boiling oil,
up
right?
Top,
Yep. Dumping them off. So I don't want anybody in to get a hold of my. Because it's true, and that's why. because when the power went out the other day, right next to me, you know, a guy that I know who's actually is a really good beer maker. He's got a big generator.
Of course he has.
And then the kid up the street who happens to be an electrician, JJ Galvin Electric, not a sponsor, but they could be.
They could be.
Yeah. So that kid he's got his house his generator is as big as his house.
Sure.
So as soon as and that's the problem is those things, those Generacs, as soon as they go, the power goes. They come on.
You look across the room at your spouse. Did you hear something? No. No. Oh, okay. Click, 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 click. Nothing changes. Nothing changes.
Yeah.
Nothing changes. Right. Yeah.
Right, and all their Christmas lights lit up, and it's
and I'm out in the car charging my phone. That's right, hoping.
I'm out in the car keeping the kids warm. Come on,
right.
guys,
guys,
okay.
Bundling. Who wants? Let's play a game.
We're gonna do homework. I'm gonna make a hotspot.
I gotta tape this for the show. I gotta tape this. Stop chattering in the back seat. I gotta do my Christmas greeting.
That's right. So okay, so we're gonna go to a quick break. We've talked about a lot today.
Nothing money law. Nothing money related.
But there's always going to be something money in the law when
Keep you on your toes. I got three things to talk about. I got a big article we're pumping out there. We'll come back. We'll talk the law.
Yeah, we got a big show for you right after the stuff we talk about that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. All right, we'll be right back.
Sublime. Love is what I got. And we're back. Money in the Law, My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Christian Man of the Con. He's just giving us the finger on the screen there. He was just telling us it was the next.
The finger, no thumb. Right?
End of one, right? End of one. He kind of, I think he plays a little fast and loose. He looks forward to that time in the show every week where he gets to just say, you know, I got the first segment out of the way, and I think he's playing fast and loose.
It's always the same finger, too.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So before the break, we were talking about...
And he's got two cameras, so he's
that's right. Double, one for each of us. So before the break, we were talking about nothing money or law related, but now we're going to turn the corner on that, and we'll talk a little bit about the law. If that's all right.
Of course. No one likes talking about the law more than me, especially with you. I learn so much. I mean, it's like, you know what it is? It's like if you were given a class, I'd be sitting in the front row.
All right, excellent. Yep. All right, well, so
Professor Marsden.
Tune in, yep, Zoom school. So we published an article this week, and the gist of the article was basically something along these lines. If you're not going to do any planning, and ideally you do some planning, but if you're not going to do any planning,
make that choice.
Right? Do yourself a favor. If you don't do it, these are the three things, maybe four, the three things that you're really, unfortunately, kind of sticking it to your family or your friends with respect to how much extra work they're going to have to do because you just didn't want to take an hour to see your attorney and get your will drawn. All right, just your will. Forget all the other stuff.
Yep.
Let's just talk. We'll just talk wills for one day. We're not going to pump up the plan or anything like that. That's a different story. But we're just talking about the wills because it's happened to us a couple of times this week where, as we're going through some of the probate work for some new clients, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, not just my work, but the person who's going to be doing this estate work, the person who's going to be the executor. This is how much easier their life would be if there was just a will on the scene, okay? And there's three aspects to this planning that, remember, this is the analogy. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the article. The article essentially says, and you'll appreciate this as my good friend, if I asked you to come over to the house and help me paint a room, and you said, absolutely,
I'm an excellent painter.
Is there going to be beer there, right? I'm in, right? So I said, yeah, great. Come on over Saturday, 9 a.m.
You had me at Oktoberfest.
Right? So 9 a.m., you roll up to the driveway, you walk in the house, you're ready to start painting. And I am nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
And not only am I nowhere to be found, I've done nothing.
Yeah, there's no prep.
Not only is there no prep, there's no paint, there's no brushes, there's no rollers, there's no drop cloths, there's no indication of what color the paint should be.
I must be here on the wrong day, I think.
There's no instructions. Are we painting the ceiling? Are we painting the windows? Are we painting the trim? Are we painting the trim a different color than the walls? There's nothing. And there's no beer. There's nothing, right? So,
that's the first one. I go, oh, maybe he keeps his paint in this refrigerator in the garage. Oh, no paint in here. But
I might have one of these, right?
Look at this. What is that? A Jack's Abbey? You know?
A little Pony Union. Tasty. So maybe he wants the walls color the same as this can, right? So I've left you no instructions. I've left you nothing. If you don't have a will, that's what you're doing. you're basically saying to somebody, I need you to give me a hand with something, and then I'm not going to tell you what I want a hand with, right? Because that's what they're doing. Your executor's doing you a favor. They're doing a job for you that you'll never have to do for yourself, right? You're never going to.
It would be impossible for you to do that.
That's exactly right. If you can do this, I want to hear this story. Call my office right away.
If you're doing it for yourself, you faked your own death.
That's right. That's right. You're Elvis. You're never probating your own estate. Somebody else is going to get this job. Someone's going to be doing you a favor.
And it's a workout, right?
Oh, well, this is what we're going to talk about. Yeah, it's a work. I mean, it's work when it all works. Right?
It's work. And remember, the other thing about it is how many, are people, I'm sure there are some people that are somewhat, I don't know if they're professionally, but they're experienced executors.
Oh yeah.
How many when you're dealing with an estate with figuring out an estate, and the executor comes to you, how much experience usually does that executor have?
For the most part, none.
None.
Absolutely
right? It's most of the time,
they might say I have some experience.
Maybe I did it with my
mom
parent,
or my dad. Maybe that might have been years ago, or they might have had a sibling that did it.
Think about it. If you did something 2 years
that.
ago and you just did it once, and then are you current on it? You're not trained on it.
You did it one time, right? And the law might have changed, or it might have been a different state. A whole bunch of reasons, right? But my point is, that's what you're doing when you take little to no effort to get at least that done. Now, here's why. There's three things. Let's talk about three things, possibly four, that would make that you're making somebody's life more difficult to be your executor. And by the way, and people do agonize over this decision. I mean, people do come in and say, geez, I really feel bad if I make it, fill in the blanks. It's going to be some work for them. And then the answer is, well, it's a heck of a lot more work if you don't do this. So let's figure it out, right? So first of all, it assumes that there's no battle over who even wants to get this job, right? Because you haven't named an executor, so all kinds of hands could go up, right? And some of those hands may not be hands that you want to go up,
That's
okay?
right.
But let's assume one person steps up and says, I got you, right? So we're going to take care of this. Well,
so let's stay with the painting analogy, because I've raised my hand to paint that room for you.
All right, so you're helping me paint the room. Okay, now here's what I've done. I've given you no indication of how this is going to work, and I've told you nothing about where and what color, and we doing an accent wall or any of that stuff. So as an executive with no will, one of the things that you may be forced to have to chase down is you have to go out and get a sense, right? You basically have to get signed permission slips from all the interested parties who would sign off on you being named as the executor.
Right, and why is that? Well, there's a reason for that. Why?
Well, first of all, it's easier to kind of move the process along if the court feels like anybody who might have an interest in this estate is on board with John, for example, being the executor. Everybody's kind of, okay, we get it, we know what's happening, and we're all cool with it, right? I mean, that's how it works. But here's talk about a sort of a weak link. Here's an opportunity for somebody to say, yeah, I'm not doing that. I don't want John to be the executive.
Yeah.
Why? I don't particularly like John.
And what does that do? It just delays your process,
well,
right?
It delays the process. It potentially drags everybody into court, or it potentially forces other attorneys, right? And if one attorney's great, more attorneys is only more awesome, right? I mean, how much more better can things get if we
get them all in here?
Let's get everybody
in.
Let's run up the bill on everybody,
Why
right?
not?
So if you need to chase down these motions that are going to assent to certain people being named as the executor, and assuming that you're not opening the door to because you're going to say to somebody who might be a troublemaker just by their nature, hey, wait a minute. You mean by me not signing this piece of paper, I get to pump the brakes on this, and I get to be the fly in the ointment? I get to be the noisy... I get to stick
it to my ex-wife?
My cousins who I don't like, my sisters, my siblings who I haven't talked to in 20 years. I get to do all this? Oh, my God. This is like Christmas come early, right? Yeah. I get to be a big wheel again, right? So getting these assents allows the process to move forward, but just like it allows the process to move forward, not getting them allows the process to not move forward.
Right. And what happens if, let's say, you get everybody who is somebody gets signed, and then there's the one person they hold out, and you're like, I just can't. They ignore you, right? So you had your chance, and then let's say your process goes and, goes 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and then all of a sudden, couldn't they come out of the woodwork and be like, whoa, 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 hold on a second. And if they have a legitimate argument,
oh yeah,
then the court could turn around and be like, whoa, well, you know what? We have to go back and look at this. And
and they could have a very legitimate argument. I mean, there could be a real reason why it shouldn't be you.
Sure.
You might not see it that way, right? Again, there's no instructions here, so we don't know. We're just making this up as we go along, right? So
there's some pictures of houses that John's painted before.
maybe you don't want him painting this house, right? And that's a perfect example. Everybody might say, look, we know that you're terrible with money, John, even though you're in the financial business, but we don't want you to have. You're too close to the action. It's just not the thing for you. It's not your thing, right? So that's a problem. So by not having a will, you're making it very difficult to figure out who should get the job in the first place, and you're also allowing other people to kind of have a say in what goes on that might be very, very different from what you would have wanted to see happen. Now, number two, so first thing is you're going to force everybody to go get all these motions in a sense to approve what you should have already done for these people to make their life easier. All right? So part two is people say all the time, I don't have that much stuff. I don't have that much stuff. There's not a lot. It's not that much. Not that big a deal. I got this house. I got the campsite up in Maine. I got the place down the Cape.
And the
timeshare.
Yeah.
2 timeshares because nobody buys just one.
Right.
I got the place in Florida. I got some money in the bank. Fidelity, the life insurance policy that I got to change the beneficiary on.
Right.
I don't have that much. I don't have that much.
I got nothing.
So, let me tell you what you do have. If you have a piece of real estate and you don't have a will, you have to get a license to sell to push that process and to push that property onto the next buyer, whoever that may be, right? So again, if you have a will, in many cases, most wills have language in them that says, these are the authorities, these are the powers that I give my executor, and one of them, 9 times out of 10, 9.9 times out of 10, is the power to sell real estate.
Yeah.
So all I have to do, if I have a will, is I have to reference on the deed, transferring the property to the new owner, the docket number in the probate court where the will says, John has the power to sell 123 Main Street. Done.
Easy.
Piece of cake. Without that, I have to go back to the probate court with a copy of the purchase and sale, prove to the probate court that you're not selling it for some fire sale, bargain basement price, and then get a piece of paper from the probate court that, by the way, all those people who had to sign those things, they got to sign another license to sell that says, you know what?
So much fun.
I want to do this. Now, you know what might happen?
It's kind of like an Easter egg hunt.
Oh, it's an Easter egg hunt, all right? Yeah. So, of course, somebody says, yeah, but I don't want to sell. I don't think we should sell the Cape House.
Right.
I
want to give my opinion.
Well, I think I like having the Cape House. I don't like paying for it, but I mean, we have it. Why are we, even better. This is what happens all the time. This is legit. Somebody says, you know what? I'm telling you what, John, this is what we should do. I think, what do you think, what are you selling it for? $325? Okay. If we put in like $10,000 worth of work, I don't have $10,000 by the way, but if we all collectively kick in $2,000 for $10,000, we could then sell this instead of for $300,000. We could sell this for $750. I watch those shows on TV.
Great idea.
Those 2 property dudes do it all the time. We should do that.
But I don't have time to hire a contractor right now because I live in Ohio.
Right. And I don't know which end of a paintbrush to grab, so I'm not going to do it. So but if we could do that.
We, meaning you, could do that. And
we would all get more money. We would all make more money. It's proper. It always goes for $1 million.
Yeah.
You don't even talk about it. So now you get people who really shouldn't have any say, another say. They give another chance, another bite at the apple to make things more difficult because they don't want to agree to the license to sell. They don't want to deal with it. They want to play developer. They want to buy the property, but they want to buy the property for $100,000 when it's really worth $300,000. So you give people a chance to be obstructionist again, right?
Fun.
So it's more work. And by the way, it's more expensive. So when clients come in and say, well, we need to do this, and this is what we have to have happen, and we look at it and say, well, is there a will? No. Oh, there's no will. Okay, that's unfortunate.
And that's when the attorneys, like, they turn around and with their other attorney buddies, and they go,
no, we don't make that.
Yes.
You can't see it with the mask. I'm
God.
going to probably keep wearing this mask for like years after COVID's over, right?
Are you smiling?
You smiling behind that mask?
No, just squinting.
No,
Just
I'm so emotional about this. This is crazy, right? So without again, all you have to do is have a will that says sell the property.
No
the
will, Mr. Nelson.
Can sell
right,
the property. That's all. That's
what
all I
is
have
that?
to say.
Paisley Park? Is that the name of
that?
Okay, yeah.
Avoids
maybe some legal work.
The headache. I mean, how much are you worth, right? So that avoids the headache. So if you don't have it, again, you're making it more work for your friend. I mean, somebody who's going to do this is going to be hopefully somebody who knows you and who cares about you. And you're saying, hey, again, John, how's my room coming? You still haven't brought over the paint.
Yeah.
You still haven't brought over the paintbrushes. Yeah, but John, you got to get it done. Yeah, but I need help.
Yeah.
Right? We're not getting it done. So that's the second thing. So
what's
you got to
number
chase
3?
down all these motions. You got to chase down a license to sell. We're going to talk about the third one, and then we're going to go to break, and I'm going to bring in the fourth when we get back. So the third thing that you might now have to do more work for because your friend didn't want to go out and just get a will done, right, is you may have to get a bond. Okay?
Oh, even better.
Now, not a bond like, oh, I'm going to make some money on this, right?
No.
Oh, no, you're going to spend some money on this.
Yeah,
that's right. So in the will, there's also language that says, for the most part, not only do you have the power to sell real estate and other properties, but there's always language in there that says that I request or I authorize that my executor serve without sureties on a bond, right? And so basically what that means is the bond is like insurance, right? It basically says if John doesn't have to get a bond, he's going to personally stand behind the fact that he's not going to steal the money, and we're all okay with it because the person who wrote the will already trusts John enough to let him do the job and says, look, I don't need some type of corporate insurance oversight policy to make sure that he doesn't steal everything, right?
He's painted my basement before.
I know, I know he's going to do a good job. We've worked together on these projects. I'm not worried about it. He knows what he's doing. Or not even that he knows what he's doing. He's just not going to make a train wreck out of it. It's going to be fine. It's going to get done. If you don't have that, that's what you're going to have to do. Depending on the amount of money involved, depending on the property, depending on the value of the estate, the court might say, well, we need you to go get a bond. And to go get a bond, you're going to have to go to a bond company. That companies are out there. There's a bunch of them locally. And you got to say to them, hey, I need to get basically a bond from you guys. Great, fantastic. It's $5,000. That's how much it's going to cost. We'll do it, and then when we get it, and then when we actually, when the court says that you need to go get this, we need $5,000. And of course, the answer is always,
well, it's going to come from the estate.
Well, the money's going to come from the estate once I get appointed. That's great, but that's a you problem.
Yeah.
That's not a us problem. Yeah. So somebody has to come up.
You want this bond? Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. You give me a piece of paper, I give you a piece of paper. Your piece of paper has numbers on it. My piece of paper has numbers on it, right? So the answer is, well, when I get the money from the estate, then I can do that. Yeah, but that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
That's not how it works. We're doing that order.
There's a horse and there's a cart, and we have to make
sure
they're
line up
the right way,
right? They line up the right way. So then somebody has to say, well, who's going to get the bond, right? Or everybody might say, well, I'm not worried about John's going to do the right thing, right? But then there's always that other relative, that other person, that other interloper who says, guys, why are we all fawning all over Drohan, right? I know he thinks he's a great guy and he knows what he's talking about. Yeah. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. Why don't we at least get them on? What's the harm? If the estate's paying for it, what's the harm?
Yeah,
well, we need $5,000. Well, I don't have the $5,000. It's going to come out of the estate.
It should be the bondholder.
Somebody's going to have to write that. So again, you're taking a job that's already challenging and you're saying, hey, I'm going to do you all a favor. I'm going to make it even more challenging, and I'm going to make more people have more opportunities to step in and basically become obstructionist if they choose to be, to make this project a little bit more difficult.
Bucket of mucky wrenches that I'm going to throw in this. All right, we're going to take a quick break and come back to number 4.
Number 4.
All right,
if you think about it, write it into the show, and if you get it right, we'll let you know.
Write it into the show. We'll be right back.
Send an email. And we're back. Money of the Law on My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden, Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Man After Financial. Christian, Man on the Con. And a lot of Sublime today. Love is what I got in this moment right here. I don't practice Santeria. That's how it works.
I mean, Sublime. That sounded like your middle name.
Oh, yes, yeah, absolutely. That's totally it. So before the break, we were talking about doing your friends not a favor. and not at least establishing the basics, the basic framework of an estate plan by having just a will. And we're talking about the 3 extra steps, maybe more, that you're going to make your friend or whoever you decide, well, whoever decides to step up and be your executor, jump through because you didn't have a will. Number 1, they're probably going to have to chase down a bunch of assents by all the interested parties, some of which you may like, some of which you may not like, but because you didn't leave any instructions to the probate court, which is what your will is, we got to let everybody know. So they may assent, they may agree, they may not agree. We'll find out. Time will tell, right? That's great.
Oh, we're going to find out.
Oh, we're going to find out, right? Yep. Part 2 of that process is license to sell. If you have real estate, that license to sell is going to need to be used to move this property off to the third-party buyer, assuming that there is one. And it's more work, not going to lie to you, which means it's going to cost the estate or cost the person who didn't do the estate more work because the attorney is going to say, well, I got to jump through a whole bunch of extra hoops. So do you, and so this all could have been easily taken care of just by having a will, but you didn't do that, so you're making more work for your friend, which they are now loving you for.
Right. And
they're saying to themselves, I have a quick question. If I wanted to get out of being the executor, what does that look like?
Yeah,
right?
How do I do?
That happens midstream, right? I want to get out of this project.
Can't do it, right?
So you got to find out, you got to walk away, and then somebody else will step up, maybe not the person you want. So second thing, you're going to need license to sell, which the authority to do that would normally be included in your very basic will that you didn't get. And then part 3 is a bond, which means now somebody might have to chase down the always extra and exciting, more expensive insurance to basically make sure that somebody doesn't run off and steal your estate and actually distributes it out to the beneficiaries. And by the way, just so you know, when people who are supposed to get stuff from you, right, when they look and they see a list of all these things that they think is all optional, that really makes it makes it much easier on the executor, right? Because they love having to explain to everybody who has no idea what's going on.
Right, you're being facetious.
That's right. Why this money came out? Why this? I mean, this is something that people are going to.
If you're dealing with multiple people and multiple kind of groups or families.
Oh yeah.
You're going to be. I mean, think about the time it takes for an executor who's executing an estate that's clean, that has a will, that has trust. It still takes a ton of time.
Oh yeah, I mean,
probate is no joke.
No, it's a hassle. It's a headache, and these things just put speed bumps in that whole process. And eventually, you just got to fight your way.
These are like triple-strand concertina wire obstacles. These are, go have somebody who's never gotten a license to real estate, a license to sell. Have someone go and do that.
Well, just explain the concept to somebody. So wait a minute. So you're appointed as the executor, yes, and then you have to get a license to sell from the probate court, yes. Why? But you're the executor, and just the redundancy of having to explain this over and over to people.
Exhausting.
It's exhausting, and like I said, this is a job that's already going to not leave a lot of gas in the tank as it is, right? So we've talked about just what I consider are not even the exciting really concerning issues. But here's the third thing: if you don't have a will,
the fourth thing.
The fourth thing. I'm sorry, I say four. Four things. The fourth thing. This is 4. The fourth thing with no will is you didn't name a guardian for your kids, right? So now,
I mean, that's
why I saved it for the last, right? That's about as concerning as anything else you could possibly imagine, right?
Going back to our painting analogy. So what that means, so if your friend John is now painting your room, essentially, and you've left no instructions, right? So you say, so I want this room painted, and I'm not going to help, and I'm not going to give you anything or show you anything. So if let's say I'm the guy and I really don't want to paint this room, or I could care less, I could just go and I could paint, green and white and yellow stripes, and essentially, so then when you came home and saw your room painted, you're like, what is this? Right. This looks, it's terrible. This is not how I wanted it. So put that on, exacerbate that level too. So when you say, okay, so if you make the assumption that people actually care about their children and care about the future and well-being, so then that means your children could be left to somebody who, the last person on earth who you want to raise your kids.
So you come home and you say, the room looks terrible. This isn't what I wanted. Well, you didn't leave me any instructions. And where are the kids?
Yeah.
And you say, what do you mean, where are the kids? Oh, the kids were here too. You were supposed to keep an eye on them while you were painting the room.
Now I'm
said, well, either A, I haven't seen them since this morning. I don't know where they are, right? So that's great, right? Or, I gave them to the neighbor. Like, just gave them to the neighbor. The neighbor seems nice. I don't know. I don't really know him. I don't know. I'm assuming.
Himself.
I mean, lives in your neighborhood.
Sure.
They live in your neighborhood in a house that looks very much like yours. How different can they be from you?
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? It's probably close. Close is good enough, right?
Sure.
It must be. They live close to where you live. I think they have the same parenting concepts. I think they feel the same way.
Everybody
about
does.
College versus whatever. I mean, how it's close is good enough, right? It's kids. What's the worst? What's the worst that can happen, right? So this is what you're doing, right? To take this to the finish line. If you don't, we're just asking you to do the basics. We're just saying, look, just take the time. As long, again, we've talked on the show a million times, and we will continue to talk about what you really need to have a fully fleshed out estate plan. But if you do nothing, at least get your will done so that somebody, if push comes to shove, has to step in and make some decisions. They at least, A, can get the job as easy as they could possibly get it without all those speed bumps they have to deal with, the concertina wire, and they have an idea of what you want.
Right. At least there's some some concept that they can work off of, right? And it may not be super clear, and it may not even make sense to them. But you know what? If the will says, I'm really concerned about one of my kids versus the other one, so I want to have, I want to leave more money or more of my assets to one child versus the other. If you don't have that, right? If you don't have that concept, you come in blind and you're like, well, I'm guessing that everybody, you're going to want to have your kids have the same amount, same. And there's a reason for whatever.
Well, there is. And I tell clients all the time, look, at least if I have a piece of paper to fight over, I know what I'm fighting over, right? Hey, the will says that this is who the guardian is supposed to be. Yeah, but we don't want that to be. What? Don't take it the wrong way. Oh, I take it the wrong way? I don't care what you want. Doesn't matter what you want.
This is what it said.
This is what my client wanted. My client made very specific instructions as to who they want the executor to be and who they want the guardian to be. And you get to go to the court and say to the court, Your Honor, my client did everything that we, as probate attorneys, ask our clients to do. They went through the process of making sure that we knew we have to honor their wishes. That's what happens.
That's the law.
And that's what we at least have something to we get some dry powder, right? We get something that we can work with so we can at least, because if I don't have anything, if there's nothing out there, then I have nothing to base any arguments on. Now you're just kind of making it up. You just make it up as you go along. And that doesn't work out well for anybody, and it's absolutely not going to work out for your wishes because we don't know what they are. And we've said this a million times on the show. And that's what your will is. It's your instructions to the probate court as to what you want to have happen to your stuff if you weren't around. If you don't want to do it, you're throwing the entire thing to chance. And we're just trying to suggest, don't think about it as, I don't want to do it. Think about it as, what can I do to help out my friends or help out my family who might get this job if I'm not around? Remember, you're never going to do it for yourself. It's not going to be your problem, right? It truly is. You will not be picking up a paintbrush to paint that room.
Nope. And the guardianship, that's almost in a different stratosphere. That's in a different level, because at that point that's to me that's negligence, right? So that's where you're like, look, if you're in a position where you don't specifically name a guardian for your children.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, then essentially what you're saying is, I don't care what happens to my kids, or we'll let the cards fall where they may.
Well, you bring up a great point, right? When your kids are little, you don't just drop them off at the park and leave.
No, you don't.
And say, well, what happens if they're there? Don't worry about it. Somebody else who's there will figure it out, right?
I'll let someone else. I'll let the judge figure out what's the best decision for this. And remember. So if that happens, if you come into state, right? If you come or intestate, which means you have no will, and you leave it up to the judge. So the probate judge has to then decide who's going to be the guardian of the children, right? So, and this is when people come forth and say, okay, I think they make a case, I should be the guardian. And then your sister says, I should be the guardian. Or your cousin says, I should be the guardian. Or your cousin says, she should not be, your sister should not be the guardian.
Right.
I should be. And then then it becomes kind of this battle where the judge kind of hears all this information. And guess what? We've said this 100 times, maybe more on the show. If you have money, and the judge is going to, and the money is going to follow the children. It's going to follow the heirs of your estate that you've not done an estate plan for. Guess what? Whoever becomes the guardian of those kids is going to have access to that money. Yeah. And that's when people start to and
everybody says it. Everybody says it. How many meetings do you have where people say money makes people weird?
All the time.
Right? It's the entire industry, right? Your industry, my industry. Money makes people weird. Yeah. And when it's not their money, people will make decisions around money. And
think about it. Like, would you think about it? Can you imagine like someone's like, you have some deadbeat brother, or make an example, right? So
like anybody,
So the brother who's the deadbeat guy who's never really been involved. You see him at like on holidays.
Doesn't have a parenting gene in his body.
Exactly right.
Right.
Yep, and that guy and
can't
maybe
balance a checkbook.
Maybe he has kids of his own that he doesn't live with, or that is with his ex or whatever. But then the deadbeat. But let's say you have $2 million in life insurance that is going to be part of your estate.
Yep.
And if he's the guardian of your children, then guess what? He's got access to that money.
Oh yeah.
And
if he's tired of renting an apartment, and thinks he's
and if
he
gets a good lawyer,
house and
right?
Do all,
and if he gets a good lawyer that's going to present a good case to the judge, to that probate judge who's got to decide, right? Eventually, he's going to have to decide that. Then that could be where your kids end up.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you wouldn't think about it this way. You wouldn't take your kid. You wouldn't take your eyes off your kid at the mall for a second. Why leave to chance what the future holds for your kid when you're not going to be around at all?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's.
And you're not coming back.
I mean, those are horrible terms to put it in, but we cannot stress enough for people who are concerned about this that this process will move on without you, and it will go places that you won't be able to control, because you haven't taken a little bit of time to say, we need to sort of figure out what this whole project looks like if we're not around. We've got life insurance, we've got real estate, we've got equity, we've got 401k, and we got young kids, and we can't even do a will to say what's going to happen. You're right. I mean, it's parental negligence is possibly the right way to look at it.
Well, that's the thing, right? So you as an estate planning attorney, me as a financial planner, when the subject comes up about what's your estate plan, and someone says, I don't have an estate plan, I got to do something. So our kind of immediate reaction is like, okay, to do this right, this is what you need to do. And we kind of do the basics. You need a will, you need a living trust, and you need durable power of attorney, you need a healthcare proxy, kind of that package, that estate planning package. We've talked about it so many times on the show. And then how many times do people then just like, they're like, there's a reason they haven't done it yet, and because they feel like that's too much work. It's like,
Yeah.
So the next words out of my mouth every time, I'm like, well, if you can't get to that point, if you can't, do what you really need to do, which will make everything easy, but if you do nothing else, you have to do a will for the simple reason of you have to name a guardian for those kids.
That's right.
Because and then when you strike that chord, then they're like, okay, I get that. Because I go, the money will, and I tell people
that crystallizes it in 2 seconds.
Yeah, the money will find its way to wherever it's going to go, and maybe it doesn't work out exactly the way you envision it in your mind, but you know that your sister is going to be the guardian of your kids. And then what's the other side of that we've talked about before is like, if you're going to name somebody the guardian of your kids, usually what I tell people, I'm like, you need to let them know. You need to say, hey, not for nothing, I'm really hoping this doesn't happen the way I've drawn it up in this will. But if something happens to me, and if something happens to Hay, then we are naming you as the guardian. Are you okay with that?
You want to look at you want to say, I have to tell you something. Pull down your mask so I can see your entire face.
That's right.
React to this, because they may say to you, let this cup pass me by.
Yeah.
I am not
for whatever reason, and maybe it's a good reason, and maybe they're like, look, I just can't do it. Career wise, whatever. I can't promise you that. I can't.
And they may say to you, a better job for us would be the money. And here's all kidding aside.
No.
They might say, look, the kid thing is not our thing. We're business people. We're business type, right? We're business folk. We would be better trustees of your kid's money. You should probably find somebody else to be. And you want to know that. You want to know that now.
You totally want to know that, right? And that's okay. And if you have a good relationship, but I mean, if you're asking somebody to be the guardian of your kids, you make the assumption you have a good relationship,
be tight.
right?
Yeah.
And if you have a good, that's the time when you don't need to BS anybody. Like,
that's
okay,
right.
Yeah. And if you say yes, I can do it, then that burden is of that stress is kind of lifted off of you. Like, okay, like I said, we're doing this in the anticipation that it's not going to happen, right?
Correct.
Just like all wills are set up, all guardianships of young kids.
Tragedy plan. Tragedy plan. Plan for the worst, hope for the best. We tell everybody, best case scenario, this thing hits the counter and it gathers dust for the next 25 years. That's what we're planning on.
Yeah,
that's exactly what we're planning on.
Just like when we buy our life insurance, right? We buy our 30-year life insurance term policy. We say, on the anniversary date of the 30th term, I want to be able to, like, oh, no, I don't have any more life.
I can't believe I didn't use my life insurance.
Oh,
what a bummer. What a bummer.
I can't believe that's
I'm so disappointed.
I'm so alive.
Gosh. All right, everybody. Just wanted to kind of get back to a little money in the law before we head out the door today. Anything else before we go?
No, we have covered it.
We're going.
This is a good, it's an important show.
Today, huh?
Yeah, we worked hard.
I'm a little winded.
We started a little slow, but then we hit it hard.
I might need some lunch.
All right. So we'll see everybody next week on My FM 101.3. This is Money in the Law. I'm John Drouin and Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group, and I'm from Main Effort Financial, and he is the law, and I am money, and we will see everybody next week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Have a great week, and get in the holiday spirit.
Be well.
Here we go.